We put so much faith in encryption, right? We use it for literally everything, our banking, our private messages, you name it. We're always told the math behind it is basically unbreakable, this giant digital fortress protecting all our secrets. But what if the biggest threat isn't a battering ram trying to knock down the front gate, but more like a ghost that can just slip right through the walls? And yeah, that's the big question we're going to dig into. Because it turns out, even if the lock on the door is perfect, information has this funny way of getting out through the tiniest, most unexpected cracks you can imagine. Okay, so let's get into it. To really understand these leaks, first, we've got to appreciate just how strong modern encryption is. I mean, think about systems like RSA. They are built on mathematical ideas that are, for all practical purposes, like a perfect alibi. They're unshakable. It's not just that it's hard to break, it's a fortress built out of pure math.
This slide just lays it out perfectly. The whole strength of modern encryption comes down to this incredible imbalance. So a computer can take two absolutely massive prime numbers and multiply them together in the blink of an eye. Easy. But to go backward, to take that result and figure out the two original primes, well, that would take the most powerful supercomputers we have today centuries, maybe even longer. It's a total one-way street, mathematically speaking.
So you get the picture. Trying to break the math head-on is, well, it's a fool's errand. It's like trying to knock down a mountain with a spoon. But the really clever attackers, they know this, so they don't even try to attack the mountain. They just start looking for a completely different path around it. And that path brings us to our main event today, side-channel attacks. This is where, instead of trying to break that mathematical lock, attackers just listen. They listen to the machine that's doing the locking, analyzing all the physical side effects of the computer just doing its job. I love this quote because it just nails the idea perfectly. It's not about brute force, it's about being subtle. It's about listening for those tiny, almost imperceptible clues that the physical world gives away when a computer is working with our secrets. So here's the formal definition, and the key phrase here, the one you really got to pay attention to, is physical implementation. We're not in the world of pure math anymore. Nope, we're in the messy, noisy physical world of electronics, power, and time. So how does this actually work in practice? How do these information ghosts actually manage to leak our secrets? Well, let's break down 3 of the most common ways this happens. All right, first up, and this is probably the one you've heard of before, is metadata. So your message itself might be perfectly encrypted, just a garbled mess to anyone snooping. But the data about your data, a lot of the time, that's sent completely out in the open. And just look at this. It's kind of scary when you lay it all out. Even without reading your message, someone can see who you talked to, when you talked to them, for how long, and from where. With just that information, they can figure out a ton about your life, your job, your relationships, all without breaking a single line of encryption. Okay, now we're going to move to something even more direct. And honestly, this is where it gets really wild. Power analysis is literally eavesdropping on the electricity your computer is using. See, every single little operation a processor does uses a tiny, tiny amount of power. So what you're looking at here is the core of the attack. It turns out that processing a binary 1 might take a slightly different amount of power than processing a binary 0. And with incredibly sensitive equipment, an attacker can actually measure these microscopic little spikes and dips in power. And bit by bit, they can reconstruct your secret key as the CPU is using it. It's insane. They are literally reading your secrets from the power lines. And if listening to the electricity wasn't crazy enough for you, well, attackers can also just watch the clock. A timing attack works on a very similar idea. Different operations don't just use different amounts of power, they also take slightly different amounts of time to complete. Even a delay of 1 millisecond, that's 1,000th of a second, can be a dead giveaway. Think about it. If a system takes just a tiny bit longer to reject a password guess that starts with the correct first letter, an attacker can learn that letter. Then they just do it again and again, character by character, until they've pieced together the entire secret. It's a slow, patient leak, but it gets the job done. Okay, so this all sounds pretty terrifying. I get it. But there's a common thread that runs through all of these really advanced attacks. They all share one critical weakness, one requirement that brings us right back out of the digital world and into the good old-fashioned physical one. See, to measure those tiny power fluctuations or those microscopic timing differences, an attacker has to be physically near your device with all their sensitive gear. They can't do this from halfway across the world over the internet. No, they need to be in the room, close enough to hook up a probe or a sensor. And that's really the bottom line here, isn't it? Your digital fortress is only as strong as the physical walls around it. This is why things like tamper-proof hardware on credit card machines and super secure data centers are so incredibly important. You have to protect the physical box where all that secret math is actually happening. So after going through all these invisible leaks, what's the big picture? What's the main thing we should all take away from this little journey beyond the encrypted text?
So here are the big things to remember. First, having strong math is absolutely essential, but it's not the whole story. You have to be aware of these information ghosts, the leaks from metadata, from power usage, from timing. And what that means is that real security has to be holistic. It's not just about the algorithm, it's about protecting the hardware and the environment it's in. Because as we've seen, you should never underestimate an attacker who can get physical access to your device.
And so I'll just leave you with this one final thought. In a world where we spend so much time thinking about strong passwords and unbreakable encryption, it's worth asking yourself, what invisible clues, what little information ghosts are you and all your devices leaving behind every single day?